ladies and gentlemen. Once again, I say hello, ladies and gentlemen. If you see, I've had to move around a couple of times. When you're your own producer, you're taking care of everything yourself. You don't have that support. Even when you're fixing your cameras, you gotta check it out one time. You think you got it together and get in front of it and find out that you don't have it as well as you thought. Nevertheless, I'm here for you. Eddie Marcus, spokesman and advocate for basic human rights for all people. What that means to me is that you, the people, all of you, in your bodies, this day, at this time, are able to experience the best life that is humanly possible. Ladies and gentlemen, a few years ago, I got a call to follow my purpose. Having been given the message and understanding in childhood years that the Almighty that I couldn't see with my physical eye, or touch with my physical hands, or acknowledge with any of my human senses existed. But the awareness became as evident as could possibly be. And so, at the age of 28, I was called, excuse me, I was called to surrender myself. You know the old expression, to whom much is given, much is required. You've heard the expression that to one saves your life, then your life is obligated to the service of the one that saved your life. Well, at the age of 28, my life was called upon. I was living in Chicago, young man, having a good life, good time in the way things were and the way I applied myself to those things. And yet in Chicago, people were having difficult times. Poverty was all over the place. Drugs and all of the other vices that you can imagine, alive and well in Chicago. I, for one reason or another, felt the pain so deeply until I recognized that calling, that whatever saved my life was not happy at what was going on in Chicago. And they wanted somebody to do something about it. Wanted somebody to do something because not only was it happening in Chicago, it was happening throughout the United States of America. But not only was it happening throughout the United States of America, it was happening across the world. I accept that calling. I gave up my career, not knowing how I was going to survive, because I had a wife at that time who wanted me to continue to do the things that I had been doing and to ignore the call. And since I would not ignore it, she decided that she wanted a different kind of life and a different kind of guy. And so right at the beginning of this mission, my wife left me. So I had to deal with that. I didn't know exactly how to apply myself in this call. I had to be taught. And like my brother before me, 33 years ago, I began learning. And this learning process took me a lot of places throughout the United States of America and abroad to learn that God was not being represented. Everybody loves God, they say, but they were not representing God according to what God's representation requires. Having moved here to Minnesota, 1982, I had amassed a vault of wisdom, an understanding of God and His purpose. And I was so glad about it. Until 1984, I wanted to speak out in such a way that everybody could hear me. I even tried to run for President of the United States, to use that as a bully pulpit, to share with the world about all of this wonderful great news that I had been given. And that is the way to eliminate poverty from this society, to give people purpose so people could have peace, prosperity, and joy. I thought they would really be excited about that. I thought that the church, even though I had been given a message that it did not serve God, I thought that it would come into the awakening. You see, once I did a faith travel across the country, and as I was preparing to do this, the Spirit anointed my spirit with the message that religion all across the board was leading people to hell. And I didn't want to say anything about it, but I was instructed to keep a report on my mission that was traveling for about 3 months or so. And having done that, I came back and I read it, and based upon everything that I experienced, most of it indicated that religion as we know it was leading people to hell. But yet and still, I didn't want to tell that message like that to the people, because I know preachers, I know bishops and elders, all of those, the hierarchy within the religious structure, they take that personal. And I didn't want to cause them to be upset, nor did I want to cause them to reject me. I wanted to be a servant of God because I trusted that they were servants of God, maybe a little off track, but I wanted to work with them. I knew, according to the inspiration that I had been given, if America was going to change, it was going to require the church. And I had seen evidence back in the 60s when churches were divided and they found a common purpose, which was the freedom struggle of the 60s. And they came together and they were able to accomplish a certain measure of success. So in my mindset, we could still accomplish a mindset even though we were divided. Even though religion, as it were on a fast track to hell. Ladies and gentlemen, that was in 1984. This is 2011. Just the other day, I was dropped my wife off to her place of employment. And I went out to pass some flyers out about a meeting that I was having, where I was inviting people here again after all of these years. After 32 years, this is the 33rd, I'm inviting people to share with them that same message that I was given in Chicago 33 years ago. That same message that I've been championing across this land. Newspapers everywhere have heard of me. They probably haven't printed anything. Some of them have. People have heard of me. They don't wonder why I keep on championing this mission when no one's listening. But I was there, and I would like to share with you some of the things that I was saying to the people and what I wanted to share with the people. I had this thing called, you have to die to something and be reborn to something. You see, in America and across the globe, there are organizations who have looked at the world as it is and saw it and see it as a flowing river. And within that river is debris, and it's being tossed with the waves, the currents. Any the way the current goes, that's the way the flow of the people. And many of them have not been satisfied with that. And what they have determined to do was to change their application to it. They have, many of them, decided to come up with secret societies. And one of the most well-known, one of their initiations, I won't call their name right now, is to symbolically die to what we understand life to be, what we have been taught. Knowing that what we've been taught is a bunch of trash, they decided to choose the trash that they were going to follow. And they symbolically allow themselves in a coffin, which symbolizes death. You know, when we die, they put us in the ground, we have no more impact, no more anything to do with what's happening on the earth, topside. And so these gentlemen go into this coffin, symbolizing death. And at the appropriate time, they are brought forth from the coffin, symbolizing life. Again, new life. And this time, they are not, because they died to everything else, the systems of the world. They have created their own systems, but they keep it secret. And they present themselves out here in public amongst the other human beings as though being one of the population, following the same dictates and creeds of the population, which that's only a front. Really what they're doing, they got their own agenda, and it is to conquer the people who are flowing in the river, being tossed like debris from side to side any way the current flows. And they got their design is to take over the systems by lying to people, deceiving people, to establish their own objective. There was a man, Madoff, not too long ago, who was identified as a Ponzi schemer, who had told people one thing while he was doing another and really ripped off billions of dollars. That's what these people are doing. They're lying to the public while they take over the systems that be and dictate what they want to be and take advantage of the people. And in the process of doing it, they have created the poverty, they've created the crime, they've created the violence, they've created the wars. They've taken people's homes, they've taken mostly everything they can get from not just Americans, but from people in a global economy, everywhere. And they get away with it. Well, in my understanding, the church was designed to be that other voice, because the church in itself is a society. It is a society of individuals who have had the skim removed from their eyes, and they can see clearly now. They know the truth of life. They know the way to peace. They know the way to prosperity. They know the way of joy, because the Spirit of the Almighty Creator, who created the heavens, who created the earth, all that is above the earth, all that is on the earth, and all that is in the earth, resources, created you and I, and given us dreams and aspirations and gifts that are uniquely ours, and it is as essential as far as developing the kinds of ways that we as a people choose to live, to make it seem as though we're in paradise, has given it to us. And so the church would be the instrument that would go against that other voice, knowing that we have a higher power that we listen to. And we know that even though we have been given the command to love others, and that those who have died to the world have also been given that commandment. But not only have we been given the commandment to love one another, we have also been given the commandment not to bow to no other rule or power but the Almighty. So if there is one that would lie to us and try to take advantage of us, the people, we are to reject it. We are to reject it, knowing that that ultimate power is the only power that we give allegiance to. Well, I don't have to tell you that the church is not doing that. But I had hoped that my mission would inspire them to do that. And after 33 years, I've talked one way or another, personally, telephone, letters, email, over the YouTube, to people everywhere, ministers everywhere, to try to see if I can get some camaraderie, to get a partnership in this mission. And I must tell you today, ladies and gentlemen, that after 33 years, I have never ever got a preacher, an elder, a bishop, or anyone to agree that they would participate in changing society as we know it. They talk about saving souls because they know that saving souls does not go against the powers that be. The powers that be didn't care about you saving souls. And how can you, who say you love God, and treat people the way you treat them? How can you save a man's soul and you don't care about his life? That's a generating spirit that's constant with me. But anyway, I was driving down the street and I saw a young lady pushing her kid. And I had seen her the day or two before. And I was kind of glad to see her because I wanted to share with her about this meeting about basic human rights, the right to live in peace, the right to be prosperous, the right to have your dreams fulfilled, the right to just glory in life so that the Almighty can get the true glory and the praise. And so I stopped her and I gave her a flyer, and the flyer reads thus. It says, "Public notice. My beautiful sisters and welfare moms. Remember when you were going to conquer the world? All your dreams from your childhood until the curse? What happened to those dreams? I want you to know that they were stolen, but you can get them back. Even at this stage of your life, you can get them back. Ever ask yourself who stole your dreams? You know, but you're not sure. The ones who stole your dreams are the ones that's giving you welfare. They are giving you welfare to hide the fact that they robbed you. On June 8, 2011, at the library on Dale and University, St. Paul, Minnesota, 5:30 p.m., I am having a meeting, and I want all of you to come. I want to give you some information that no one else will. You have been robbed, but you can reclaim what has been taken. You can begin to live. Welfare is no life, reduced to a state of living on the few dollars given per month. At the same time, all costs are increasing. They want to blame you. No, sisters, don't accept that accusation. You are not to blame, they are. You have to stand up for what is right. In order to do that, you have to be qualified. That means you need some information. You need some understanding. So you make sure that you make this meeting. You don't have transportation, get your baby daddy to drop you off. If you're not together, however, don't you allow anything to prevent you from showing up to this meeting. And it's sponsored by the Basic Human Rights for All People. Now, ladies and gentlemen, while I was driving to this parking lot, my spirit was touched. And I got this information that I got 33 years ago. And that information was to this effect: that the major obstacles to this peace and prosperity and joy that I've been speaking about for 33 years and currently are politicians. We all know what politicians do. And the other is the church. And so I said to myself, why am I being given this information? And what I ended up doing was talking to this lady. And when she read that, she asked me to explain it. I gave us an explanation as I've given here to you. And she says, oh no, this is not going to happen. This is not going to happen until Jesus returns. Oh, she said, she's a member of the True Israelite Church. Had something else, but I don't recall what else was attached to it. And we could only, as disciples of Christ, is obey the 60 commandments. And I realized that I had never in my life heard of the 60 commandments. I've heard of 10, but never 60. So I was a little perturbed, and we talked a little bit, and I saw she was getting upset, and I might have been getting a little upset, but I realized that you cast not your pearls before swines, and maybe she thought the same thing. Well, she turned around and walked away. Went about 2 blocks to catch a bus to get far away from me. And I was meditating on what had happened, what was going on. Then another lady passed by, and I wanted to give her a flyer, and she was so into the now and so upset at her condition of life or the moment of time until she just refused to take a copy. But one copy I had that I also dedicated to the brothers meaning men. And it read like this. It says, I'm spokesman and advocate for basic human rights for all people, a man just like you. I'm having a meeting on the 8th of June next Wednesday at 5:30 p.m., Dale and University, St. Paul at the library. And I want you to come. I know you don't trust anyone. You've been beaten down and lied to, and it's very difficult for you to trust anyone. I understand it, and I don't blame you. I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm asking you to trust yourself. Come to this meeting and hear some truths that you probably have known all the while, but you haven't had anyone to confirm it with you. Come to this meeting and let your heart speak to you as to whether it's truth or not. Think about your babies. Think of the world you're living in. Look at the United States you're living in, how hard it is for you. You know it's going to be worse for your babies. Think about your wife, your sweetheart, your darling, the one you want to rain down your love on, the one you want to do so much for, in the midst of a world that's tying your hands at every corner. Think about freedom. Think about liberation. Think about the opportunity that you have to cause all those wonderful things to happen that you have already wanted to happen. The power to do so is not in my hands. The power is in your hands. So come to this meeting, and don't you let anyone stop you from coming. Those of you that got parents living, you know that what they're going through, and they are going through some trying times. When they were young like you or your children, they never dreamed they'd have to live in the kind of world that they're living in today, and yet they do. If you don't do something about it today, not only will your children have to live it, you will have to live it a second time when you are old, and it's worse than right now. So I invite you to come out to this meeting, and you listen. Come to this meeting and listen to your heart, and let us begin to take care of the society and our lives. Now, you see anything wrong with that? Well, but that's not all. I had another message that I sent out to my church-going brothers and sisters. And it reads like this. I'm having a meeting on June 8, 2011 at the library on Dale and University in St. Paul at 5:30 p.m. It is a community meeting on the subject of basic human rights for all people. I want you to show up. I want you to be there and do everything you possibly can to make it. If you don't make it, tell someone and have them come and report back to you. This meeting is about basic human rights for all people. But for you, it is a heavenly message. You who are churchgoers need to be there. I say this to you because this message is sent to you, and most of you don't get it at church. The reason is because most preachers, not all, are sitting on a stump of tradition, more concerned about your soul for which they have no control than they are about the life you live in this hell every day. I want you to know that your Heavenly Father loves you and has prepared that you should not have to experience this hell. Yet, you have a role to play as far as ending this hell. I want you to come and find out what that role is and offer you a choice in your liberation, not sitting trusting that others, including politicians and preachers, are going to do it for you. If you have a Bible study, put it off for another day. If you have family, friends, associates living over in North Minneapolis where the tornado came through, and you know someone, or you know someone else that does, please contact them and extend to them this invitation. Let them know that now is the time for them to come to this meeting and get some information that is so pertinent for the crisis situation they find themselves in today. If you love anyone, spread the news, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for change, and no one is giving you the message of change as you deserve to receive it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I mentioned those messages to you because as I pulled in this parking lot, the Spirit told me that the biggest obstacle to the freedom, peace, and prosperity, joy of humankind is politics and preachers. And as I was talking to this young lady, and she was telling me some information I never heard before, I began to meditate on this, think on it, and I got back in my car and I sat down, and then it hit me. This message that this young lady had received is different than any message that I heard. And so what we actually have is preachers preaching all kinds of things, all kinds of messages. And they say that they are the ones that are right. When you talk about the Protestant Reformation, all of the churches within the Protestant arena are all individually, if they say it, are right. And they exist because the others are not right. The Catholic Church, all of the churches, wherever you can identify them at, the mosque, everybody talking about God, loving God, and they are right. But they cannot come together. They cannot even express love enough to come together. They are like one preacher was here in the United States of America who was trying to build places where people who love God and Christ could come and celebrate, to spend some time there and have the pressures of the world relieved from them, to live in luxury as God had intended to be, as I express here today. And this brother made a mistake, and they cast him out to the wolves. They didn't understand love. They had no understanding whatsoever of what love was all about. And so all of these churches, loving God, but cannot come together. And in not being able to come together, the greatest expression of God is denied them and all who they would touch. So they are teaching people in their separateness to go to hell. Their intention is not to go to hell, but the power of God says that's where they're going, straight to hell. Why? Because they know not love. They can't come together and be empowered to teach the people a different voice than that of the deceivers, because they are so blind in their lust to be truthful, to be different, to be the one. Talking about God and Jesus coming back to save them one day out of the sky while they live in hell right here on earth. When Jesus, who they say is coming to receive them, said, "Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." Not on earth as it is in hell, but on earth as it is in heaven. And who will do that except those who are led by the Spirit? History teaches us that those that have been led by the Spirit of God are killed. Jesus was killed. Those who have been able to stand up since that time are killed. But you know what? They don't care. They will stand up. Sometimes they're supposed to die, and then they don't. But they keep on standing up. There will come a time when they do die. And it doesn't matter to them because they know that humankind is going to die. I am going to die. You are going to die. It doesn't matter who we are, what color we are, what gender we are. We are going to die. But we do have a choice. We have a chance and an opportunity to choose how we die. Do we die from an assailant's bullet? Do we die in war? Do we die in terrorism? Do we die in hatred? Or do we die standing up for love? My message has been for 33 years. And for 33 years, not one preacher, not one church, not one politician, not one organization have come on that side and say, let's go, let's unify. and strive for this peace and prosperity and joy that you've been talking about. Well, I understand why the message says that we're on a path to hell, because that's exactly where we are. I just explained to you how all of these different churches and all these different people loving God, calling themselves Christians, calling themselves this and calling themselves that. It's not real. It's a pretension. They don't mean to be lying. They're just following some traditional things that happened. And they are trusting that they are real and that it is their salvation. But truth being told, it is a tricky lie. They are being divided. They are not being led by the Spirit of God. Now, when we talk about politicians, you got politicians, Democrats, Republicans, and all others. And many of them are Christians. Christian Democrat, Christian Republican. And their views about life is as backwards or different as night and day. And so they got God over there against God. Can that be real? God is not against God. God is for God. And if any Christian was on the Democratic side, any Christian was on the Republican side, by being there and continuing to stay there, they would draw these two sides together because they will realize that everything belongs to God and God has not run out of anything. And God put us here to live here. God will provide for us. And we don't have to believe that some government is going to provide. We don't have to believe that Republicans know best. We don't have to believe that Democrats know best. We know that God knows best. And we will not be divided by political persuasion. We will not be divided by the various variations in the church organizations that we have. We will stand for truth. I know you've heard people say that you can come from all different angles to get to God. That's a lie. You can be over here, here. But if you come to God, you're going to come the same way. Every way. Truth. Which is love. Which is treating your brothers like you want to be treated. There's no other way. No other way. I don't care what you heard. I don't care who you believe. There is no other way. Ah, do you believe me? You don't. No, you don't. I know you don't believe me. But it doesn't matter. You see, what I wanted to tell the people at the meeting was this, is that you have to love one another. You have to come back together. I know and realize that we've had all kinds of lies that separated us. We've had race to separate us. We've had religion to separate us. We've had gender to separate us. We've had sexual orientation to separate us. All these things to separate us. To have the high and the low. We've had class. All of that to separate us. But in so doing, we have all of the hell that we and others around the world are experiencing every day. It is experienced because we are practicing lies. We are practicing hellism. We are practicing death. And so I wanted to tell the people that, recognizing this as a reality, we must go into our communities and we must start sharing with one another, start talking to one another, reacquaint ourselves with our sisters and brothers. We must identify through the organizations that exist and other whatever means necessary, people who are not being housed. People need housing. God provided that all people should have housing of their choosing. We must identify at that local level people who are denied education. And we must make sure that they have the proper education. Education that allows them to think, and not what to think, but how to think. We must make sure that they have health care to protect them when they're sick. Every last one of them. Not some, not the one with the money, but everybody who can get sick or will get sick or get sick must, by the power of God, is entitled by the fact that there's health care available. Should have it and receive it. The best kind. We should make sure that everybody who is on this planet, just like when wartime comes, you can draft people to put them in war and put their lives on the line. You should make sure that everybody have the opportunity to have a career of their choosing. Because with a career, they participate in the creating of goods and services that they, the people, have to determine are necessary for the joy and the complete life that they desire to have while here in these bodies. You should make sure we, the people, must guarantee these things to one another. And we should start on these local levels. And once we recognize what's missing, take it to our city representatives. Tell them that these needs must be met. And any resources that are available to the people from the city should be used. And if they fall short, then they must be willing to turn and go to the next level, to the state. And the people must support and back their local officials. Not just in one city, but in every city throughout the state should be doing likewise. You go to that state, and whatever resources are available through that state must be handed out to those people equally to make sure that their needs are met. And if they fall short, they must be willing to turn and go to the next level. And people of the state, not just one state, but states throughout the United States, must be willing to go to the federal level and demand through the federal level that these requests that grants the needs and the desires of the people are met. And whatever resources are available to that, through that federal government, must be spread out throughout the states of the United States of America, that those needs are met. And if they fall short, if they do not have the resources necessary to meet these demands and the desires and needs of the people, it is the authority of God that said that system must change. Because our Father settles for no system that is not qualified to meet the needs of the people. And the people do not have to change their desires. They do not have to dumb down and tighten up a belt because you live in a system that will not allow you to embrace your desires. That system must change. That system must change. And it is those who recognize the Almighty God who have the responsibility, the obligation, the duty to make sure that no system exists that would deny anyone homes or housing, that would deny anyone health care, that would deny anyone education, that would deny anyone the opportunity to participate through a career. That's what God wants you to know. That's the message that I wanted to give to the people. But you know what, ladies and gentlemen? Not one preacher showed up. I had a few friends in the church membership that showed up. I had one friend from a 501c3 organization, Welfare Rights Committee, to show up. I had another friend who is an independent who doesn't even go to church. He recognized the church for what it is, who had car trouble, but he got there late. He was there. And that's all. All the people who are in the streets without homes, they weren't there. Without adequate education, can't go to college, weren't there. People who prostitute themselves to live, to make money, weren't there. The preachers, again, who are there talking about love and all saving your soul, none of them were there to support the cause. All the organizations, African organizations, white folks organizations, you name it, blood bank organizations, healthcare organizations, who are always complaining about not enough money. None of them were there. None of the politicians were there. I invited the city leaders. I invited the mayors. None of them were there. I invited state representatives. None of them were there. I even indicated that I wanted some of the federal politicians who were local to show up. None of them were there. And I had given the information to several of the media, radio stations, who have the calendar of events, some of the newspapers. I looked through the newspaper. I found no mentioning of it. I heard nothing on the radio. So it seems as though a message as wonderful as this, because every last one of us desire everything that I mentioned. None of you who've listened to me today would want education or don't want education if you need it. Don't want housing if you don't have it. Don't want a career if you don't have one. Every last one of you want these things. But why is it that you think you deserve it and no one else does? Because if you cared about other people as well as you cared about yourself, you'd have been there. You'd have been there because that's the kind of life does not exist here in America. And even though you have been living here as long as you've been living and never seen it, you wouldn't have given up hope. When I came out of college, I wanted these things that I just mentioned to you to happen. I looked around to try to find a career that addressed these issues. At local level, state level, federal level, I looked everywhere. There is not a career that talks about and advocates what I speak to you about. And even in the systems of government, when they break it down and have a little bit here and a little bit there in these various areas that I've mentioned, it's not for everyone. It's for some. I went to the United Nations. They offered me a job to go to Peace Corps. And so, ladies and gentlemen, what I find here today is that after 33 years and having such a wonderful vision about life, and when I compare that vision about life with what I see every day, a lot of you think about hell, a place where torment exists. Well, I don't think about hell like that. I see hell right here, where people are denied their basic human rights. I see the squalor. I see the people turning to drugs. I see the people getting angry and shooting and killing each other. I see the fight, the torment that goes on within individuals. I see it every day. It's the same thing that's going on in hell, because, ladies and gentlemen, this is hell to those whose eyes have been opened. This is hell. How can a man say that he's an advocate for God and look at this stuff and allow it to happen continuously? The only way he can allow it to happen is not see it. He is blind to it. And as Jesus Christ said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. That's all I can say. I can't get angry with them, because I know without a doubt, if they knew it, they wouldn't do it. The thing that gets me so angry sometimes is that I know that most preachers have never been called by God. They have used that to pimp a way of life for them. And I know, because I've gone to churches and they didn't even want me on the premises. I've been cursed out from throughout this United States and countries abroad on Facebook, MySpace. I would post something and they would curse me out like I'm a dog. So I know it's because people can't see. But I can't make you see. And if I am true to myself and to my God, I cannot continue to live under the authority of blind people. Now you say, why have I been doing it thus far? It's because I have been hoping. I've never given up hope. I have never given up on you. I have believed that if I just kept on and just kept on, even though I'm walking in the same mud that you're walking in, that one day you would recognize it and together we would rise up out of this mud. But it hasn't happened after 33 years. My father's son lived to be 33 years old, and we killed him. Humankind killed him. There have been others who got a chance to live a little longer, and we killed them. And there have been others who died even younger, because they stood for truth. So I feel that I can't say any more than what I've said here today. But I can do more. And that is to resist the powers that be. To just say, you're not God, you don't care about people, and that being the situation, I have the authority to resist your laws. Now, I do not have the authority to do wrong. I must, by virtue of what I represent, do right. But the right thing is not a law that's passed. The right thing is that which God promotes. I have the duty and the responsibility and the obligation to do that. And if you, the people, in your form of righteousness, decides you want to kill me, then that's your duty. But I'm trying to understand, how do I want to deal with this? I am not trying to challenge you, but I do want you to change. I want you to live here in these bodies of yours during these times as though you are living in paradise. And that means the best life that is humanly possible by the power of God. I want that. So I've been considering some options. And the most serious and feasible option that I have thought of, as far as I can identify, is to go on a fast. A fast that's calling for the unity of the church. For all of these various churches to come together and speak on one accord, and that one accord is love. I have a desire. I don't want to go on a fast because I know you probably not going to come together. And if you do, I'll probably be as thin as a toothpick. And the truth of the matter is, I don't want to die. I want to share in this glorious life that God designed for us. I really want to. But we're not living that. We're not even headed that way. We're heading down a fast track to hell so fast, you think we were at the, 500 racetrack. I want the organizations who are out here dealing with healthcare, energy, blood, and all these various things to come together and see, go according to the guidelines that I just identified with you, how you can fix this so all the people can benefit from what it is that you render. I want you to be able to go to the government, influence the government, change the government where it must be changed, so that this kind of life that I just experienced to you happen in America. And I want America to be a golden light, like a beacon sitting up on a hill for the whole world to see. That this is a nation that's led by the Spirit of God, that those who put themselves in a coffin and died to the river that's flowing with all of this debris tossed in from side to side, who arose and decided that they would deceive this nation by getting from it, using it as they want to for their benefit, knowing that the people were ignorant, keeping the people ignorant. I want those people to be moved by you. You who did not go to the coffin. You who are not secretly messing over people. You just led blindly. I want you to wake up with a new light. I want you to wake up with a new inspiration, a new desire, and train those devils that God is the way. I don't know if that's asking too much, but ladies and gentlemen, 47 minutes, I think I can't say any more. This is my dream for you. This is my mission from God. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.